Before you buy a house, your lawyer is most likely going to order a survey of the land that you're buying. And the survey will show whether there's any boundary line issues. So it'll show, for instance, if a shed or a fence or a driveway is over the boundary line and going onto the neighbor's land. And it's a common problem for that to happen. So if it happens, you have a few options. And the first thing you need to realize is your title insurance policy, which protects you against legal problems after you buy the property. That will not cover any issues that are shown on the survey, okay? Because the title insurance company is essentially saying you knew of these problems in advance and we're not going to cover them now after the closing. All right, so title insurance will not cover these sorts of issues. There are really three ways to approach the problem, and a lot of it depends on the lawyer involved and how high-strung the lawyer is, okay, and how they want to deal with the problem. But you can essentially just buy the house with the problem, right? And for most people, they're fine with that, okay? If the driveway is 6 inches onto the neighbor's land, or there's a tiny little corner of the shed that encroaches on the neighbor's property or whatever, most people just say, I don't care, and just buy the house anyway. Okay, you could be buying a legal problem in that scenario, but it's really unlikely. The other two options will be to do either an easement or what's called a license. So an easement is an agreement signed by the person who has the structure encroaching on the neighbor's property and the neighbor who's having his property encroached on. It's a written agreement between the two that issue can just remain there perpetually, okay? And it will run with the land. The easement runs with the land. The agreement is binding on all later buyers and owners, unless both neighbors mutually agree to extinguish or wipe out the easement. The other option is something called a license. So the person who's having his land encroached on essentially just signs an agreement saying, I realize it's there and I'm going to permit it to be there, and if in the future I decide to revoke this permission, I have the right to do that. Okay, that's called a license. So again, how you approach this is really determined in most cases by the lawyer. Most people don't really understand their legal options. They just go along with what the lawyer advises them. But I've seen a lot of lawyers make a really big deal out of meaningless little things that the buyer really doesn't care about. Okay, so if your lawyer is making a big deal out of something that doesn't seem to you to be a big deal, you may want to consult another lawyer or do some of your own research, or even talk to the title insurance company that you're going to be buying a policy with. Their underwriter should speak to you directly and give you a second opinion.